meeting right now.
We got a new clock. Who do we thank for the new clock? Public Works.
It's a parting gift.
That looks really good.
He's had enough of it.
It even has a thermometer on there, and I'm not sure. Okay, 9.
What is
okay,
it
that's the
before
date.
thermometer?
In the right corner, in the right bottom corner, 75
it does say the
degrees.
date. Oh, and Tuesday. That's what it says. 9/8 Tuesday.
Jenny, can you hear me?
Yeah, this is way fancy.
I know.
I need that at home so I know what day it is some days. I sometimes-
All right, are we ready? Okay.
Test. Can you? I want to bring our meeting to order. It is 7:02, September 8th, 2020. Let's do the Pledge of Allegiance. Councilmember Duncan, will you please lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, before we roll call, I want to go over some instructions for tonight. Tonight's meeting is much like our meetings that have been in the past. Public comment procedure. We are going to be visually accessible on the YouTube channel. We are also on Zoom, and all this information is on our agenda. Public comment will be open for each agenda item through the Zoom platform. Please note that YouTube live stream comments are disabled for the live stream. You can participate in the meeting via Zoom software or via telephone. When you join the meeting, you will be muted by default. To inform the clerk that you would like to make a public comment, you will use raise hand feature. Instructions for using the raise hand feature when using a computer or mobile device can be found at the link below. So, let's see, you can join the meeting from your computer using the web browser or the Zoom software. You can join the meeting. I'm having problems with this. Is this the malfunctioning? Okay. You can join the meeting from your computer using a web browser or the Zoom software. You can join the meeting by clicking the following link, which is on the agenda, starting with https://us. Please note that you should only raise your hand during public comment on the agenda item you are concerned about. Zoom participation by telephone audio only portion. Dial 669-900-9128. And then when asked for the meeting ID, enter 895-8987-6422#. And when asked for your participant ID, press pound to continue. And you'll be muted by default. To inform the clerk that you would like to make public comment during each agenda item, dial *9 to raise your hand. The clerk will unmute you when it's your turn to speak and will identify you by the last 3 digits of your phone number. Please note that you should only raise your hand during public comment on the agenda item you are concerned about. So with that said, may we have roll call, please?
Here.
Here.
Councilmember Baker,
Here.
Councilmember Morales,
Here.
Mayor Clark-Kretz.
Here. All right. We are going to have a proclamation and recognition, and Sean is going to do the honors.
Apologies for the technical difficulties tonight, Madam Mayor and members of the council, with the monitors. So tonight we're going to do just a quick, brief recognition for our Public Works Director, Town Engineer Britton Snipes, for his 5 years of service to the Loomis community. So council knows this, but for members of the public, Britt has tendered his resignation, and Friday of this week is his last day. And so we wanted to present Britt with this recognition. So I'm going to read this really quickly, and then I'll say a couple things, and you'll also need to come up and speak. So in recognition to Britton Snipes for 5 years of service to the Loomis community. We have been privileged and honored to have Britt Snipes for our town engineer, public works director since September 14th, 2015. He has shown dedication and willingness to go the extra mile, and we appreciate all his hard work. Some of Britt Snipes' greatest achievements have been working with the business community on the Taylor Road project, which led to the town receiving an award from the California Association for Local Economic Development. The completion of the downtown master plan phases 1 and 2, Taylor Road from Oak Street to Horseshoe Bar Road. The completion of the downtown master plan phase 3, Taylor Road from Horseshoe Bar Road to King Road. Completing the EV charging station project at the multimodal, putting in the Walnut Street parking lot, upgrading the security improvements at the multimodal lot, and the Webb Street reconstruction, just to name a few. Britt has clearly made a positive difference in the town of Loomis. We express our sincere thanks and gratitude to Britt Snipes for his integrity, dedication, and talent that he has brought to our community. He will be greatly missed by all those who have had the privilege to know and work with him. September 8th, 2020, and this is signed by our mayor, Jan Clark Kretz. So I just wanted to say briefly, coming in here 3 years ago, Britt and I have obviously, have this relationship, working together, not only a collegial relationship, but also a friendship. And I really appreciate all the help that you've given me, Britt, throughout these past 3 years. I don't think that we'd be half as successful as we've been without you. So I appreciate that. So here we have your recognition. If I can get it off you can get it off because you've got fingernails and I don't. So I'll give you the knuckles instead of the handshake. Thank you for all of your work.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, yeah, take a picture. Sans mask.
Ready now, shake hands. Shake hands.
We'll do that. There you go.
I just want to say, well, first of all, this is a little unexpected, so forgive me for cracking up a little bit. Sean, thank you very much. The past 3 years that I've worked with you, very enlightening. You've been a fantastic boss. You're a great leader to a great team. Everybody that I work with at Town Hall, I love these people. It's great to come in and see them every day, and their dedication to this town is amazing. You have an amazing staff here in Loomis, and I was very, very proud to be part of that. I'm very impressed by every one of you council members. You people are so dedicated to this town. You're smart, you're thoughtful, you've done some very hard work. I've witnessed some very hard work over the past 5 years, and I appreciate that. You helped me do my job. I am an engineer. I have to build things. I've got to move on to bigger projects, but I do hate leaving Loomis. Some of the accomplishments that I've done here are the biggest and most memorable of my career, and I'm grateful for the opportunity. So just wanted to say thank you for letting me be part of this community for the past 5 years. It's been an amazing ride, and I really appreciate it. So thank you.
Anybody else like to say anything? Go ahead.
Madam Mayor, thank you, Brett. Great work for the last 4 years. Appreciate your time and your dedication. You have done a fantastic job, and it hasn't always been easy, but we came out ahead. I wish you all the best in your new role at the state. They're lucky to have you. I think challenges and new things are a good thing. So I'm happy that you're moving along to challenge yourself in a different way. So thanks again, and it's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for being here. And yeah, what was that award-winning
Microphone.
Oh, what was the award-winning street
Project.
The California
Economic Development Association.
Yes, that was impressive. That was really neat to see that we landed on the map with that, and that was because of your work. And I had a feeling that you would be moving on to build some bigger things, and we're not really building a lot of things here in Loomis, so I totally understand, and look forward to seeing you around. We'll let you back into Loomis.
Cool.
We're open.
Yeah, I'm going to get a table over at Kenny's, get my name on it.
Right, nice.
Britt, you and I have had several meetings together, and I really appreciate the insight and the things that you've taught me about the processes, things that that we do that we're asked to vote on. You've always been a wealth of knowledge. If I have a question about whatever it is, I can just ask, and you always have an answer for me. And I really do appreciate your dedication to the town for all that you've done. There's been probably in the last 5 years more that has been accomplished than probably the prior 10 years. So that was definitely with your help. So we've gotten a lot done, and we appreciate it. Go have fun down at the state, but don't forget us back here in Loomis.
And I concur with everybody else. I've enjoyed knowing you and watching you do some good things in Loomis, and we appreciate all you've done, and thank you for your service to the town of Loomis.
Thank you.
Britt, I've told you this before. You love our town, and it has been so obvious for the last 3 years, I guess, that I've been able to work with you. And, appreciate your dedication to our town and the projects that you were able to bring forward. And while we might not have had that many projects, I will bet you that you'll always remember this team that you were on with much fondness. And it's going to be part of your career high to think back of all these wonderful people that you got to work with, and you guys really gelled as a team, and I think that's really wonderful. And I wish you the very, very, very best. And I know you love to build, like I said, big things, and you got one coming up, so that's great. We wish you the best, and thank you so much.
Thank you. And thanks again. Thanks.
Right. Let's see. Matters of interest to council members. Did we miss something?
We're going to do public comment.
Oh, where's
Is
that?
that first? Is that?
No.
Actually missing from the agenda.
Oh,
Where?
That's public comment procedure, which would be what she read.
Oh, okay. But don't we have public comment? Did we miss that on the agenda?
no, it's coming after, yes.
Oh, I see it now. Sorry.
It's okay.
This is confusing with all
So-
the new stuff added.
Crazy times. Matters of interest to council members?
Madam Mayor, as you all know, the filing period for elections has closed, and I have not been public about this. I haven't said anything about it. Anybody who follows what's going on with the elections in Loomis knows by now, but I have not. I'm not going to be running for re-election, and this is my public notice. So there's more to come on that in the next few months. But so far, thank you, and we'll see what happens in November. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. No? No? All right. We'll move on to the town manager report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I had my stuff here somewhere. So tonight's update kind of follows the trend of the past updates that we've had. So mostly focusing on the COVID-19 issues and where we're at. I think most folks on council know this week Placer County has been moved to the red tier on the state's new Crayola version of where we're at with COVID-19. So we went from purple to red because our numbers have come down. That means that some businesses are actually able to open now with the restrictions. And I'm going to run through just a couple because these are the ones that I get a lot of questions about. First is hair salons and barbershops. They can remain open, and they can open indoors with some restrictions, and all those restrictions are on the state's website and also on the county website. There's too many for me to get into. Indoor seating at restaurants is now allowed again at 25% capacity, and then obviously the outdoor dining remains in place. Although with the air quality that we have tonight, I would doubt that people are going to be eating much outside. Indoor activities at wine tasting rooms are allowed again. Religious services can reopen with a maximum 25% capacity or 100 people. And then personal care services, including nail salons, massage parlors, tattoo parlors, are able to open with restrictions again. Retail is open as well. I think that's capped at 50%. So things are kind of trending, obviously, in the right direction for the town in terms of those businesses being able to reopen. We've talked a little bit about the different things that the town has done to help our local businesses. I wasn't able to give this report at the last meeting, so I just wanted to kind of jump in on that a little bit too. We have 8 aluminum patio tables, sets, and market umbrellas that are out here at the train depot actually to provide for outdoor seating. I need to get the umbrellas up. There was an issue with the size of the pole versus the size of the hole in the tables, and so we're getting that fixed as quickly as possible. So that means that we have 11 tables now and 38 chairs here at the depot for folks to sit outside on top of the benches that we also have. The town's obviously relaxed requirements for outdoor seating at our restaurants, so we have several of those using outdoor seating for the patrons. Created a small little outdoor seating area for Pizziola next to the Loomis Basin Market, using our traffic barriers to create a little pedestrian area there for their outdoor seating, because they literally have nowhere that they can do outdoor seating. We also loaned some of our barricades to the pizza factory so they can create their little outdoor seating area that they have. I know that Reds has done a pretty good job on their outdoor patio that they have going. And then obviously LBB has their big patio. Some of the restaurants over off of Swetzer in the little shopping center over there are also using the parking lot for their outdoor seating. And so we just ask that restaurants come in, tell us what you want to do to make sure you're not impacting ADA path of travel stuff, and then we let them do that. I didn't bring it to council because I didn't want to slow the restaurants from being able to open up as quickly as possible and get their seating set up. The state provided Placer County and its cities with a stockpile of paper masks and hand sanitizer. We got I don't remember the number, but it was like 52,000 masks or something, a huge amount of masks. They're restricted for businesses, local businesses in town, and then also in the unincorporated part of Penryn. We had a mask delivery, like a mask and sanitizer delivery that happened a few weeks ago. I think it was here at the depot. But we still have more left. And so if businesses need masks or sanitizer, they can get in contact with the Chamber of Commerce, and Jenny will coordinate that. We also today are finishing up, well, we started today installing a free public Wi-Fi system at the train depot and then also at the library to provide for folks who either they have spotty internet because we don't have the greatest internet throughout the Loomis area. And I know that that's not going to be a great solution for folks if they're doing distance learning, but it does offer the ability with the tables that we have for folks to come and use internet. That'll be up and running hopefully within the next couple of weeks. So we'll have Wi-Fi gateways set up on each end of the building and then in the front. So we'll have internet broadcasting into the parking lot, into the front here, and then also into the park, and also at the library, basically the same way. So that's in process right now and should be done, like I said, in a couple of weeks. Town received the first 2 of 6 CARES Act payments from the state and from the federal government. So all told, the town gets about $85,000 in that funding. We're presenting a grant program for that later on in the agenda, and so I'll just leave that at that. And then the public counter at Town Hall remains 9 a.m. to noon. Monday through Thursday, the building inspections continue, and we've actually been pretty busy on the building inspection side. So that's good news. That's all that I got. I did want to recognize one thing really quickly too. I didn't get to do this last month because we didn't have time, but our esteemed town clerk just celebrated her 33rd year of an employee at the town of Loomis last month. And so because I wasn't able to do this last month, I just wanted to say thank you for being such an integral part of our town. And Roger, we recognized you a couple months ago, right? No?
You did, I didn't hear.
Oh.
Do it again.
Roger's been here. How long have you been here?
I don't know, 25, 26 years?
Yeah. So the institutional knowledge that we have between those two by themselves is, we're very fortunate to have them. So thank you guys.
Thank you.
That's all that I have. I can answer questions if you have them.
Okay. Any questions?
I have a question, Madam Mayor. Shell, would you give us a status report on the RFP, if there is an RFP, or where we are, where we stand with the old mill?
Yeah, I've been working on putting that together. I have not released it yet. With the commercial market, the way that it is, and then working with GSEC, also talking to GSEC. At first, I didn't think that we'd be able to get any hits on that property, but people are actually starting to call me now, which is good, without even having anything released. So I'm hoping that I'll be able to get that done within the next couple of weeks or so, get it released and see what we can get going over there. There has been one potential tenant that would be really good for the town, and I'll talk to you about that offline.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay. Any other questions? No? Okay. All right, let's move to the Loomis Chamber of Commerce update.
Good evening, Mayor and
Jenny on
Council.
the line?
Jenny's there, but we don't have sound. Hang on for a second, Jenny. Keep talking.
Okay. Hi.
Still don't hear you. Just keep talking and we'll figure it out.
Okay.
when we-
Okay. Hello. Hello.
Say something? Nope. Can you hear her, Ken?
Up until a few seconds ago, yes.
Yeah. Hang on, Kenny, or Jenny, hang on.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Well,
Hello. 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 Should I just hang up and call in?
And the video system isn't working today.
Should I hang up and call in?
no, I can hear you now, but can you hear her now? Keep.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Jenny.
Hey.
Yeah, go ahead.
You can hear me.
Go ahead.
Okay, so everybody can hear me? All right. Good evening, Mayor, Clerk Prince, and council and staff and people listening in the audience. I wanted to also thank Britt for all the work on the I Dig Loomis. We worked together for the last 5 years, and it has been such a pleasure, and I really appreciate all the time you take to talk to our businesses every week during that time. I just wanted to say thank you on that. So I wanted to talk to you about Eggplant Festival. We're not able to hold the traditional Eggplant Festival, so we're doing some virtual events, but we also have partnered with Roseville, Rockland, Lincoln Chambers to do something called Placer Valley Eats. And it starts this weekend in Roseville. That would be their normal weekend to have an event. And then the next weekend goes to Rockland, which would have been Cool Cars and Chili. And then it'll go to Lincoln. And then our weekend is October 2nd through the 4th. And we're really just encouraging people to visit and take out if they don't want to dine in, but to support our local businesses. We also have a new eggplant logo, which goes with the theme of the We Love Loomis. And that'll be coming out, and we'll be putting that new campaign of, using local towards the end of the month. We're going to have a cookbook for sale and just the virtual events. And then tomorrow night we kick off our Loomis leadership, and there's 10 participants. So that is all I have. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions for Jenny? All right. We're going to move on to public comment for items not on the agenda. This time is reserved for those in the audience or online who wish to address the town council on subjects that are not on the agenda. The audience should be aware that the council may not discuss details or vote on non-agenda items. The council may refer your concerns raised during public comment to staff or placed on future agenda. And with that said, we will open it up for public comment for items not on the agenda.
So caller with the last 9411, your line should be open. You still there?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, this is Sonia Kupler, and I have a question about when the public is going to be able to attend the public meetings that the town holds.
Would you like me to answer that?
Please.
I mean, the only answer that I can give at this point is, I don't know. Because we don't have enough room in town, in the train depot here to facilitate for proper social distancing with the staff. And so I frankly don't know when that social distancing is going to be not required to the point where we can have folks come in. We don't have a big enough facility where we can actually hold a meeting that the town owns, so I don't know the answer to that.
Okay. Any other comments?
It doesn't look like we have anybody else. Nope.
Okay. All right, let's move to adoption of agenda.
I move adoption of the agenda as presented.
Okay.
Second.
Excuse me if I may. Sure, if I'm on. There we go. I would like to request that item number 23 and 22 switch places. Item 23 is on the Rural Main Street Technical Assistance Program, and for continuity, I think it would fall better underneath the general plan status, collaboration, and committee topics.
So repeat that again. I'm sorry.
Item number 23 moved before 22.
Okay. Any objections? Sounds good.
Thank you.
So would you like to?
Yeah, I'll accept those changes for my motion.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Morales?
Aye.
Councilmember Baker?
Aye.
Councilmember Underhill?
Aye.
Councilmember Duncan? Aye. Mayor Clark Kretz?
Aye. Okay, so moved. Opportunity to comment on consent calendar. All items listed under the consent agenda are considered by the council to be routine in nature and will be enacted by one motion unless an audience member or council member requests otherwise. Is there any comment on our consent? Okay.
Seeing none, I'll move approval of items 1 through 15 on the consent agenda.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Sorry. Second.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Morales?
Aye.
Councilmember Baker?
Aye.
Councilmember Underhill?
Aye.
Councilmember Duncan? Aye. Mayor Clark Kretz?
Aye. With that, we'll open the public hearing. Revised Uniform Fire Code, Chapter 11.04.100.
So this is the first reading of the revised Uniform Fire Code. We've updated the fire code so that we're in conjunction with South Placer Fire with the new Uniform Building Code. That's what these updates are in reference to. And then for item number 17 is, we should do these two separate, but.
Yeah.
So this is the first reading, and we'd ask that we just waive the first reading and bring this back to you in the next council meeting for adoption of the new ordinance.
Okay. Does any council members have any questions for Britt on this item? No? We'll open it up for public comment then.
If you're an attendee on Zoom and you'd like to make a public comment, you'll need to use the raise my hand feature so we can open the lineup for you to make that public comment. Yeah, it doesn't look like we have any public comments.
All right, hearing and seeing none online. Basically, what we're going to be doing is introducing the first reading. And so then we just need to do a motion for next time, correct?
Yes, if the council approves the first reading, then it will come back next month for second reading and adoption.
All right. Do we have a motion then?
Motion to approve item 16 for first reading, Madam Mayor.
I second the motion.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Onderko.
Aye.
Councilmember Duncan.
Aye.
Councilmember Morales.
Aye.
Councilmember Baker.
Aye.
Mayor Clark-Kretz.
Aye. Motion passes. Moving on to item 17, South Placer Fire Protection District rate increase.
So this is Britt Snipes, the Public Works Director again. For the South Placer Fire Protection District rate increase, this is for basically the fire impact fees. The fire district collects those fees. They don't come through the town. We don't do anything with them, so there won't have any impact to the town's budget. So this would be the first reading for those increases. And then we'll bring it back in the next meeting for approval. Oh, there's a resolution. I apologize. So this item just has a resolution to approve the increase of these impact fees for the South Placer Fire District.
All right. Any questions for Britt? Please.
So, Britt, just to be clear for the public, these are impact fees for projects or housing developments. It's not increase the individuals, right?
Correct. These are the impact fees, so these are the fees paid at time of building a project.
Okay.
Thank you guys for making that.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Nope. All right, let's open it up for public comment.
So again, if you're a member of the public and you'd like to speak on this, you'll need to use the raise my hand feature through Zoom, or you'll need to hit, I think it's *6 for public comment through Zoom, if you're just using the telephone. Sorry, *9 to raise your hand. It doesn't look like we have any public comments.
Okay, hearing and seeing no public comment, let's bring it back to the council for, looks like we will need to get a motion to approve the initial impact fee for this time.
I do have a question, Madam Mayor.
Okay.
So, Sean, if I recall, we were going to do a wholesale review of our impact fees some time ago, and could you just bring us up to speed with where we are with those efforts? What we were going to do, so if you recall, we've had several discussions, I think during strategic planning, that we were going to do a review of what our impact fees are and how they compare to other jurisdictions and so on. So not only fire impact fees, but across the board impact fees.
So those fees come in many categories. the traffic impact fees, and we have several programs, plus our park fees were brought to council a few months ago, and you increased those basically for inflationary purposes and to make sure that they were in conjunction with the other jurisdictions surrounding us, so we were on par with them, collecting the same basic fees. We're going to be taking a look at that a little closer on some of our park fees and maybe bringing an adjustment to that. And then the other building department fees, or the fees that we do for inspections and plan review, I believe that Roger's going to be doing an update on those fees in the next few months.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay.
Motion to approve the item, Madam Mayor.
Okay. May we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Underko?
Aye.
Councilmember Duncan? Aye. Councilmember Morales?
Aye.
Councilmember Baker?
Aye.
Mayor Clark Kretz?
Aye. Motion passes. All right, we're going to move on to business number 18 on our agenda, establishment of Loomis Local Business COVID-19 Grant Program.
You mind if I wait for the train?
Please do.
Well, it sounds kind of like a short one. Maybe.
That'll be quick. Right? Is that great?
Yeah. All right, good. So this item is looking towards setting up a new grant program for the town businesses that have been impacted by COVID-19. So, in response to COVID-19, the federal government enacted the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, or the CARES Act, on March 27, 2020. That includes $2 trillion of economic relief, with approximately $150 billion of Corona Relief Fund monies directed at state, local governments, tribal entities for economic and disaster relief. The town's portion of CARES Act funding is $85,047. And while the town's incurred some expenses that would qualify for reimbursement out of that pot of money, at this time, staff is recommending that rather than using the CARES money for the town, that we absorb those expenses into just our normal operating budget and set aside that full $85,047 for our local businesses to help as much as possible to make those businesses continue to thrive. So the staff recommendation to council is that you adopt the attached resolution that authorizes the creation of the Loomis Local Business COVID-19 Grant Program that's founded by the town's CARES Act funding, and that you authorize the town manager to execute grant agreements with approved Loomis businesses. And I'm going to kind of just go through a couple of the parameters of the program. So that grant program would be set up with grants of up to $2,500 to be approved by the town manager, with the concurrence of the finance director, the mayor, and the president of the Loomis Basin Chamber of Commerce, who right now is Ryan DeMartini. Eligible activities for the use of the funds should be used to cover fixed expenses for businesses. And per the CARES Act, that money must be spent on expenses that occurred as a result of COVID, the pandemic and/or shutdowns, or that are unpaid as a result of economic hardship imposed by business-related mandated shutdowns. So examples of those would include rent, utilities, payroll, marketing, PPE, personal protective equipment, cleaning, disinfecting supplies, etc., technology to automate systems or to allow for telecommuting, or furniture, equipment, and supplies for expanded outdoor activities for dining and retail both. During the application process, grantees are going to be asked to verify that the funds will be used for those eligible purposes. And in the resolution, there's an exhibit to the resolution that has allowable expenditures, and then also the types of businesses that are allowed to, that are would be eligible. And I'll go through that criteria really quickly as well. So business needs to be located in the town boundaries. They were operating with an active Loomis business license on or before March 1st, 2020. Business has a total annual gross revenue between $25,000 and $2 million in 2019. And for new businesses established on or after January 1st, but before March 1st, the total projected revenue would be between $25,000 and $2 million. businesses need to have 30 or fewer employees because we're really targeting the smaller businesses in town. Business has not received a PPP, Paycheck Protection Program loan, or any other local, state, or federal business assistance program for similar expenses. So it's not that the business could not have received a PPP loan. That's okay, as long as the $2,500 grant that the town would be administering isn't being used to cover payroll expenses that the PPP loan was also used for. That's a requirement under the CARES funding, that you're not basically double dipping on the money that you're getting from our grant program. U.S. Department of Treasury has issued guidance on the use of funds. There's a list of that in the staff report, and then also in the attachment, that's the application itself. And so if folks are interested in that, you can see that and read that. We're recommending that the application period begin on September 11th, so this coming up Friday, and run through September 30th, 2020. The applications will be reviewed and approved by the town manager with concurrence of the finance director, mayor, and the Chamber of Commerce board president. Funding would occur within the first week of October, and then staff will provide a report to council at the October 13th meeting, including all grants and any unexpended funding. I don't know what the demand for the grants is going to be, and I frankly don't know if $2,500 is going to be enough to meet everybody's needs, or if that grant amount should go higher. I won't know until we start getting feedback from our businesses. So we're setting it at $2,500 now, and if we need to up that, or if council wants to approve a large grant for one specific business, then we can do that, depending on how much money's been paid out. There's some certifications that businesses need to follow or need to certify to as part of their application for funding, and there's a list of those as well. The biggest one that's important for businesses to understand is that you can't use this grant money to pay for the same expenses that you're getting other grant money or a PPP loan or whatever. You can't double dip that money. And that's basically the kind of the outline of what the program is. I did want to make one correction. So if you look at Exhibit A to the resolution that you have, on the first page, it says the town of Loomis has set aside its full CARES Act allocation of $85,047,000. That would be really nice if we got that much money, but we did not get that much money. We got $85,047, so there was an artifact with the extra digits there that was left, and so I need to make sure that clarification is made. That's basically it. I can answer questions if you have any.
Okay, any questions for Sean? Nope. All right, let's open it up for public comment then.
So if you're a member of the public wishing to speak, you need to raise your hand through the Zoom function, or you would need to press *9 to speak. So we have Jenny Knisley, who's the executive director of the chamber. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to thank you guys for considering this program for our businesses. It may not seem like a lot, but $2,500 is going to help. It's really going to help our small businesses. So, and I also wanted to thank you for the flexibility of not just doing restaurants or whatnot. You're including anybody that's had these COVID expenses. So, I thank you.
Let's see if we have any other public comment. It doesn't look like we have any other public comment, Madam Mayor.
Okay, hearing and seeing no more public comment, bring it back to council to entertain a motion to adopt this resolution.
I so move.
Second.
Okay. May we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Morales?
Aye.
Councilmember Onderko?
Aye.
Councilmember Duncan?
Aye.
Councilmember Baker?
Aye.
Mayor Clark Kretz?
Aye. Motion passes. All right, let's move on to item number 19, general plan update status.
Just a little bit of spaghetti here. Good evening, Madam Mayor and council members. Tonight, how do you tell? Oh, I have to talk closer, okay. I will lean forward and do that then. It's unfortunate we don't have the projector working, so in your in your presentation is the presentation I'll be going through. For those at home, you won't be able to see it, but this is posted on the town's website within the package for the council, so it's something you can go and look at tomorrow. The council's asked for monthly updates on the general plan. We always start out with the council direction. Your direction has not changed. That is still that the general plan is to reflect the town's vision. It's to maintain that vision 2020 to 2040, the 20-year time frame. This is a maintenance update, and it is intended to make necessary modifications to comply with state law, reflect current physical and economic conditions, reflect changes in the town, and resolve inconsistencies. And the focus will be on land use. So we're still doing that. Town accomplishments in the month of August. Town Council received the July General Plan Status Report. There was no activity with the Planning Commission. Public outreach, we received requests to serve on committees. We also received requests recommending approach to the general plan content. The Rural Main Street Technical Assistance Program, we worked with the consultant to modify the schedule and program, and you'll be having a presentation tonight on that from Michelle. Team accomplishments. Supplemental experts were reviewed and contracts were modified. You approved those contracts tonight. The staff prepared for the council September 8th meeting, which is tonight, and you did approve the contracts moving forward with the general plan team tonight. Consistency and evaluation and information gathering has been ongoing. We now have the cultural element settings section, which will be made available for review tomorrow. We also have portions, the biological resources section of the resources element, which should be available for review in the next couple of days. And the circulation element setting section should be available in the next week for public review. We have edited sections, as I just mentioned, the cultural resources, circulation, conservation of resources, public health and safety and noise, public service and facilities have been edited. The team accomplishments, public education, outreach, and meetings, we've maintained the town's website. Recommended committee guidelines and formation, which you'll be getting a presentation tonight on. Posted the setting, or we will be posting the setting sections for community and agency collaboration tomorrow. And we've updated the general plan schedule. We've changed the schedule to show at this time 3 tracks. Track 1 is the overall general plan track, which goes out approximately 2 to 3 years, depending on how quickly we go. Track 2 is a housing element. It's required to be completed by May of next year, so that is a shortened track, but it feeds into the overall track. And then track 3 is the Rural Main Street program, which you'll be hearing about tonight, and that's going to be completed, I believe, by the end of the year, so it's a really a fast track on that one. All these will move into the overall general plan update. Let's see here. What are the next steps? Next steps include managing the general plan contractors as they put together your general plan, updating the general plan sections and posting those to the website for collaboration, and preparing the policy sections of the general plan. Community education, outreach, and meetings. Now that we have the team approved under the contracts, we're going to be working on setting up the open house, and also we're going to be working on setting up town meetings on Zoom. Michelle can talk about it tonight, but I was involved in one of her Zoom meetings as part of a similar program, the Rural Main Street program for Meta Vista, and it was excellent. It was really a good program, so I think you're going to enjoy that process. Open house, we're hoping to be able to do an open house late September and early October because of the weather, because I think we're going to have to be doing it outside because of COVID. And then we'll be preparing the status report for September. The estimated schedule has been provided to you, and that will continue to be modified and updated as we go through the process. Again, we want to remind everyone that information on the general plan update is available at the Loomis Town website, which is the https loomis.ca.gov/general plan update. Also, there's a comment email, which is gpupdate@loomis.ca.gov. And we're going to encourage you to, anyone who's interested in participating in the general plan, being informed in the general plan, let us know. We'll be sending out emails to inform you when new sections are put up for review, when meetings are being held. So it's a way to stay in communication on the general plan update. So we encourage anyone who's interested to sign up onto that mail list and let us know so we can keep you informed. Also, any comments can come in by snail mail or drop off at the town hall. So I believe at that point, if you have any questions about that status, be glad to answer them.
Anybody have any questions for Anders?
Anders,
Yes.
how was our response as far as people volunteering to be a part of the process?
At this time, I think we have maybe 15 people, but we haven't really pushed and advertised. So one of our intents, especially, is the next thing we're going to talk about is committees. Mm-hmm. And with that, if you concur with the approach we're recommending, our intent is then to do a townwide email blast to make people informed that the committees are being formed, how to get on a committee, the rules, regulations, the application form, and to also do an email blast suggesting they contact us and become involved. So we have not really done a push because we weren't ready, but I think we're ready now to begin that push. Yep.
Any questions over here on this side? The only thing that comes to my mind is I think that we should also send out mailers to all of our residents, including, in addition to the email blast, but I think we might be talking about that at the next item.
We are.
Okay.
And the intent is, yes, you have that, all residents and all owners will get an email. We're thinking a postcard.
Okay.
And then the email blast, and then if you want to stay updated. So the intent is that if you're on the general plan update list, anytime something happens, you'll get notified. When there's major events occurring, then it will be done by the total town email blast and also by mailing. So we want to do both.
Okay, so with that, we will open it up for public comment.
So if you're a member of the public that wishes to speak, you'll need to use the Zoom function, raise your hand function. And if you're calling in via phone, you'll need to hit *9. It doesn't look like we have no public comment.
Okay, hearing and seeing no other public comment. This particular item we were meant to review and participate in the presentation, and then we're going to be going to the next item, which is similar. So
yeah, so we're going to have a total of 4 items tonight on the general plan. First one was a status.
Right.
Second one is on committees. Third one, collaboration. And fourth one on the Rural Main Street program.
All right, let's move on to item number 20 then. General plan committees.
General plan committees. A lot of discussion, both by the council and the community about committees, and so we've provided you with a recommendation. The purpose of the committee, or committees, is to provide agency and local insight into the general plan process. both in the general plan policies and implementation measures, also the CEQA settings, the vision for the town, the goals for the town, policies for the town, objectives, the implementation programs, issues, and also solutions. So we're looking for engagement from the community using the committee process to do exactly that. The committee input will be utilized by the Planning Commission and the Town Council. The committees will provide recommendations to the Planning Commission. Planning Commission will provide recommendations to the Council. It's assumed, or we're thinking that in this process we're probably going to do workshops where the committees, the general plan and the Planning Commission can be together to kind of hash out some of the more difficult issues that we come up with. The general plan update potential committees includes the housing element committee, which we're going to have to form quickly. So if you're interested in housing, you're going to need to contact us through the GP update at loomis.ca.gov, and because we're moving quickly forward to get the housing element done by May. The land use element, and we're looking at potential subcommittees with that could include lands areas around Sierra College Boulevard north of the railroad right-of-way, areas northwest of Interstate 80 and Horseshoe Bar Road and King Road, areas southeast of Interstate 80, Horseshoe Bar Road, and also the area along Taylor Road, your downtown business commercial corridor, which is also the focus of the Rural Main Street Technical Assistance Program. And so we're looking that if you had subcommittees, those committees would feed into the Land Use Committee and then feed up into the Town Council. We also believe there should be a Parks and Recreation element committee, Economic Development Committee, a Circulation Element Committee, a Conservation of Resources Element Committee, and there's potential subcommittees: the Biological Resources and Open Space, Cultural and Historic Resources, Air Quality, Greenhouse Gas, and Climate Adaptation could be potential subcommittees. We also feel that a Public Health and Safety Element Committee, which potential subcommittees would be Noise and Safety, a Public Services, Facilities, and Finances Committee, an Environmental Justice Committee. And these committees, as we find out if there's persons interested or not, it will be up to the council to determine if those committees are formed or not and who's on those committees. We're recommending the membership that up to five, up to no more than 10 members be on each committee in order to make them workable. We would like that the town council appoints those committees, that the committee chair be a council member, which is going to take a bit of your time, that the committee vice chair be a planning commission member. So again, you have that full-on involvement of the commission and the council. Voting members should be Town of Loomis, either property owners, businesses, or residents. But there can be non-voting auxiliary members, and those are persons that are providing expertise or experience that would be useful to the town, or they have knowledge and they live outside of the town and would like to provide input into the committee and into the general plan process. The selection of the general plan committee would be that a person would submit a statement of interest and qualifications, which would include a name and residential address, business name and property address, statement of interest discussing why they want to serve on the committee, the committees on which they wish to serve, information for serving such as work-life experiences that will be available or that are useful, prior involvement in related projects or committees, community involvement or other useful information, and then also the availability to participate the days and times that are convenient. Your attorney, Jeff Mitchell, mentioned that all of these committees, because the council member and commission member on them are Brown Act committees, so they will have to be properly noticed prior to any committee meetings. Okay.
I have a question, Madam Mayor.
Okay.
So this is probably a good time to ask a question.
Yeah.
Jeff, would we require financial disclosures for members of these committees?
They're not currently under your local conflicts code. A question is typically do they make or participate in the making of a decision? You make a decision, that's pretty straightforward. Participating typically means it would be an organization that makes a recommendation directly to a decision maker without intervening review. I think not here, because these would go first through the Planning Commission and then to the council for action on the general plan. So my initial thought is that no, probably would not be subject to Form 700 disclosures.
Okay. Thank you. The presentation had the application form in there that will be posted tomorrow for persons to download and then send back to us. Committee selection. The statement of interest and qualification form will be posted on the town website tomorrow. We're requesting that initial persons respond by September 21st, because what we'd like to do is bring back persons for your consideration at your regular October meeting to form the committees. And you can hand deliver to the town hall, mail to the town hall, or email it to gpupdate@loomis.ca.gov. So we're looking at, I believe, October 13th is your next meeting, and that's when we could make initial appointments. But the council, over time, based on circumstances, based on needs, can adjust and modify those committees as we go through this process. So they're not set in stone, but we do want to get going as soon as possible with these committees.
Okay.
And I think, yeah, okay. It is intended that the committees will meet on a regular basis throughout the general plan process, and what we'll do is work with the committee chair and vice chair and the committee members to set up a agenda or a time, and that way we can also post the notices and meet the compliance with the Brown Act. The meetings will be either online conference meeting, if necessary, in-person meetings, collaboration sessions, could be site visits, or other meeting types depending on the agenda and the needs of the committee. If an in-person meetings are held during the COVID-19 pandemic period, participants will be required to wear face coverings, and physical distancing will be implemented for any of those meetings. Again, at the end of this presentation, we provided the information on how people can contact the town and become involved in the process. So if you have questions or direction you want to give us, we'll take it.
Okay. Any questions? No. I think for me, I just want to reiterate the fact that I think we need to do a card mailer.
Okay.
And I'd like to see that go out to all of our residents, to all the addresses that we have, letting them know that this is happening. I do have a question on the new element, and maybe you could just describe environmental justice.
All right.
Would you just give a little bit of explanation so people that might be interested in that would know a little bit more about what that's about?
Briefly, it's basically if you have an area of town that is maybe not that desirable, and you decide to, and say it's the income may be a little bit lower, and you decide that's where you want to put all your industrial uses or the noisy uses, whatever. It's like, are you taking a look at your community and providing land uses that are appropriate and are providing environmental justice to the community? So real briefly, and it gets into more than that. It does look into the economics, and it takes a look at the kinds of policies and implementation within the community. And it ties closely to the housing element. So we'll be looking at that as we look at the housing element.
And this is a state requirement, that's why it's added?
It is an option under the state to have this. It's not required at this point in time. It's in the general plan guidelines. The town of Loomis doesn't have the makeup and configuration to be a requirement, but we're recommending go ahead, let's take a look at it and be aware of that as we update the general plan.
Okay. All right. So with that, we'll open it up for public comment.
So we have a couple here. So the first public comment that we're going to have will be a phone number ending in 2384. Your line is open if you, let's see. Yeah, your line is open. Go ahead.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep.
This is Beth calling.
Joe, and I just want to say, first off, that I appreciate the town's attempt to provide transparency during the general plan update through offering public council and planning commission meetings. And I recognize the need to update the general plan, incorporating statutory requirements like air quality and environmental justice. But I am concerned that the update is occurring during a global pandemic when everyone's attention is diverted to higher priorities and distracted by daily public health and safety threats. A large portion of our population are in high-risk categories and is unable to attend in-person meetings and also incapable of connecting to web-based meetings, as many are technology limited. I'm very interested in seeing this email blast. I have no idea how you guys have emails for every resident in town. And on top of the email blast, I want to see these flyers come through in the mail. But I did hear in a presentation that, we have less than 2 weeks to turn in a formal request to be on one of these committees. And, unless people start getting these email blasts tomorrow and the flyers tomorrow, I just don't see how it's possible to get the diverse community members' voices out there on these committees. And I'm worried that you're going to start filling these committees with, maybe unscrupulous business developers. I have heard that the general plan update has been presented through a planning commission and council meetings, that you're limiting this update to administrative changes and compliance updates only. But I've also heard through meetings that, and the approval of the application of specifically the Green Business Park, that there's a possibility and discussion from the council that there will be incorporation of the developer's request into the general plan prior to review and approval of the application itself, including adding specific plan descriptions into the general plan and modifying land use maps. So specifically to that project, it would replace 100 acres of agricultural property with high-density housing and flex industrial commercial space, and specific plan descriptions related to that. I am concerned that no committee will be focused on these kind of changes that are not administrative in nature, and it has a real impact on the general plan. I'd like to recommend extending the deadline beyond a week and a half for selection of committee and application of those interested parties until at least after people get the opportunity to see these flyers that the general plan update is happening.
Will you just let her know?
Your 3 minutes are up. Can you finish any additional thoughts that you have, or is that it?
That basically summarizes it.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's move on to the next public comment, and maybe we'll remind people about the 3 minutes.
So our next public comment will be last for 9411. Your line's open.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
This is Sonia Cutler again. I also have a concern, just as the previous caller was stating, about the timeline of getting the information out to the public about being on these committees, and then having to fill out an application and getting that turned in. If that starts tomorrow, that's less than 2 weeks. So I also am in favor of extending that time period so that people can find out about it, do their application in a timely manner, and that the public is not going to be left out. Thank you.
Thank you.
And then it looks like we have a comment from Jenny Nisley.
You.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Jenny Nisley, 4135 Hunters Drive, Loomis. I just wanted to know how we're going. When we did the library, we did a survey to all the community so that they had information that they could. It was just a Google Doc, but everybody had input. And I'm wondering if a survey like that's going to go out and then be able to be shared to each committee so that they have input from the whole town, because not everybody's going to be able to be on that committee.
Thanks, Jenny. Can I address it really quickly?
Please.
Because I was going to actually talk about this on the next one, but we've spoken several times about the need to have at least one survey and probably several surveys go out throughout this process, and so that is going to be part of the robust public participation that we have. I understand the concern about the timing, and frankly, I share that same concern. Being in the middle of this pandemic, unfortunately, the state of California hasn't yet given us a reprieve on the deadline for the housing element that needs to be done, as I think Andy said, in May. If that reprieve comes from the state, then I would recommend to council that we probably slow down on the general plan and kind of try to get as much work as we can get done without creating a potential issue where we're not having people be able to participate. I do think that the timing is not great, but without that reprieve being given from the state, if we don't have a certified housing element by May, then we run the risk of being ineligible for any kind of state grant funding, which is not a position that the town wants to be in. And so I know that SACOG is looking at working with the state to do that, to request extensions, but at this point, we haven't heard anything about that. And our SACOG, one of the SACOG staff is actually on the call. And Greg, can you address that, please?
Yes. So your housing element is due on May 15, 2021. However, the state legislation, the state law has an automatic built-in 120-day grace period. That's true across the state. All housing elements. This is 120 days after that. That's when it's due. It's only if you choose to adopt after May 15th of next year, that during that period between May 15th and when you actually adopted, that's the only period in which you're not eligible to apply for housing grants. So you are subject to not taking advantage of that. But otherwise, if you don't apply during that period and you still make it within those 120 days, then your housing element counts just like anything else.
And has there been any discussion with the state about extending the May deadline just completely without having to worry about that 120 days and not being eligible for other grant funding and all that?
Yes. So SACOG, the Sacramento Council of Governments, and our counterparts in San Diego and Los Angeles, we met, our executive directors met with the governor's office to talk about that. The May 15th deadline, everyone agrees that's pretty well fixed in statute. The question is could we add more days to the 120-day grace period? And the governor's office was open to talking about that until last week when the legislature closed. They just said, because it does take a legislative action, they are going to put it off until January of next year. We could revisit it then around the state. More jurisdictions would know whether or not they're going to be able to make their deadline or not. So right now it's up in the air, and they want to see if there is a real need to extend the deadline, the grace period of the deadline, not the deadline itself. Then they would come back. Then they would be willing to have discussion, but they want to know that enough jurisdictions really need it and aren't just trying to extend their deadline just for the sake of extending their deadline.
And thank you, Greg. And we have one more public comment. Gene, you're on, but you need to unmute yourself. There you go.
Okay, Gene Wilson here. since the housing element is the critical one to get going, but we also would prefer to have more time for signups for all these committees, would you want to consider letting people go ahead and sign up for things, but extend it for all the other ones, and just to try and get the housing element one going and leave the other ones all open for a longer time period? That's my only comment. Thank you.
I don't see anybody else with a comment.
Okay, hearing and seeing no other public comment, bring it back to council. Any questions? Comments?
Well, this might not be a very popular position to take. However, I do think that I do agree. Was that Jane Wilson?
Yes.
Yeah, I do agree with Jane. I think my recommendation would be to carve out the housing element and get that going until we hear further notice from the state on whether there's an extension granted or not. But I actually think that these committees should be formed after the election. And given that, so the timeline would be you're recommending that this comes back next month, and then, in December, this council will look different. And so I would recommend that we wait to form these committees, and this will also give ample time for people to apply. So I would say open up the application period as you're suggesting, staff, and then close it, sometime after new council members are sworn in.
Okay, any other comments?
I'm willing to listen to the pros and cons on that also.
Okay. Anybody else? No?
Not yet.
Okay. I have a few things that I want to say. First of all, I agree. I believe that the housing element is our number one concern, and we should definitely put that out in the forefront. I also agree that September 21st is really too soon of a time, and I'd like to see that put out a little bit further. To the caller that suggested that we were only going to do emailing, we are going to be doing, I think also she mentioned the mailing. I believe we should put something in the paper, but for sure, I agree the housing element, we need to form that up rather quickly, and I'd like to see that. I'd like to talk about what that time looks like September 30th, October 15th, or something like that, or 30 days. And a very provocative idea, I would say, about waiting for the election. I know that we have to get this done. We also have COVID. To me, that's even harder hurdle to jump over. I want to make sure that everybody feels comfortable that they're able to take part of this process. I know I've said that all along. So I'd like to hear your feedback about that. What do you think, council?
Well, like Tim said, there will be 2 new council members on the council at the December meeting. So it would be hard for Tim and I to go on a committee and then it's not really time for us to do any function. It would be better for whoever is elected to kind of choose the committees, because it's...
But like Jean suggested, she said do the housing element now.
Housing now.
And then extend that date, though.
But it is close to election, so it's kind of silly for Tim and I to go on these committees and go to a meeting and then have to have new council members come in and get up to speed. So it's kind of an odd thing with the election this year, and that there will be 2 new faces on the council. So if we were something to think about.
Yeah. So if we were just to do the housing element, how many committees is that?
1. Housing committee was 1. And what we can do is accept applications on all committees and that the council makes their decision after the new council is seated is an appropriate thing to do. And it could be you don't get enough on the housing committee right to begin with, so you may want to come back and even look at supplementing that. So
Sure.
my thought on the committee process is, I think the town needs to accept these applications all the way through the process, because the issues are going to change, the interest is going to change,
Yeah.
and I think the committees will change as that is reflected in the process. So the intent is to keep that application out there at all times, and the council then at all times has the ability to supplement any of the committees they want or add new committees.
That's excellent. I like that.
Yeah, because I've known in the past where something comes up and they have to drop out. So it's good to have people in the wings to fill in the spots that might need filling in.
Okay.
I concur with what's been stated. With everything going on between COVID, election, and everything else, it might be a little bit difficult, number one, as we spoke about, to maintain these committees with people and personnels and jobs moving, or loss of jobs, things like that, and it becomes I think it makes the process not as good as it should be if our committees are changing all the time. And so I think we need to look to stabilize those, make sure that the people we have on those committees are set for the long haul, and if we need to supplement in and out one or two, that's not a big deal. But I think with everything going on through the end of the year, I think it's going to be difficult. Now, let me ask you this. If we waited till December, do you think we could accomplish that work by May? We got a lot of hardworking folks here.
No, I know Jenny's listening tonight, but I think we need to get that committee going ASAP in order to meet the May agenda, because you have review periods, delivery periods, you have an environmental document to go out in February. So I think December's just waiting too long.
Okay, and so worst case scenario, if that's what happened, we're out of compliance till June, and so we couldn't apply for housing grants.
Right.
That's correct?
Yeah,
How many housing grants have we applied for in the last 10 years?
We don't apply for housing grants, but if you don't have a certified housing element, it affects other grants that tie back to that. So, like there's a number of those that we've applied for and received. I think the Taylor Road project, for example. Okay. But, I think that the idea of, I think that we should extend the deadline for the committees for probably 30 days. We can have a special meeting and bring it back somewhere, November-ish, whatever that is, however that shakes out time-wise, to make sure that we get enough people on the housing element committee. Continue to do the accept the applications for the other committees, but frankly don't seat them until the new council is seated. I think that's actually a really good idea. And then I think we don't have the opportunity to wait too long on the housing element. We do need to start that, but the other elements, frankly, can trail. Okay. There's still some background work that we need to do that we can be doing in between. The land use element ties back to the housing element, so that one will be done. It won't be done. It doesn't need to be done at the same time. There's not a legislative requirement for that. In terms of the timing, but we do need to have that updated pretty close to the time of the housing element. But that doesn't mean that we have to have it done by May either. So my recommendation at this point would be to extend the deadline for 30 days, have a 30-day window for people to apply. We'll do as much outreach as we can get done in those 30 days. If it looks like we don't have enough people for the housing committee, or the housing element committee, then I'll come back and we'll ask to extend it. I'll bring something back in October and we'll see where we're at. And then get those folks seated, have the other committees application process continue in until we're able to seat them, and then start on that. But the timing with the pandemic is not good, but unfortunately, like I said, with the state's May deadline, there's not a whole lot we can do about that on the housing element. The rest of it, though, doesn't need to be done in May.
I have a question or a comment. If we do the housing element, if we have enough applicants to at least get 4 or 5 people with the council and the planning commissioner on that committee, can't we just add to it as it up to get up to 10?
Yeah,
As we go, so if we could start with a smaller committee and then as the applications come in, but I think we ought to at least try to place people on that committee on the October meeting if at all possible, just so that that housing element can get up and running and we can add people as they come in.
Right, especially with the election. Okay.
Madam Mayor, I do have another comment. I'm sorry. I do have another comment. And, you know, what I think what would be best for the town is that we attract people to these committees that have kind of a bigger vision, a larger vision for Loomis. I know there are some folks who are interested in serving on these committees because they have very narrow interests. Maybe they've been activists for one cause or another. But what we really want people to do is understand the greater challenges of Loomis. And what that means is understanding what we're up against. So it's, you know, I know, you know, some people have had their eye on serving on a committee because, you know, they've been very hyper-focused on one single issue. But that's really not going to be helpful because there are many things that are going on in the town that relate to each themselves, and you know, there's the domino effect. If this happens, then this will happen. So I would ask people to, rather than just knee-jerking an application, to really think about whether they're qualified or not, and that might require some honesty with some people. And qualifications are, you know, that's a very vague term in a lot of ways, but just because they, you know, do one thing or have one position might not necessarily mean they are qualified to serve. And I think at the end of the day, what we're looking for is for people to have the best interest of the town in mind when they're serving on the committees and not their own personal interest. And I'd also ask people to be open-minded to, you know, there might be some unpopular folks who are chosen to serve on these committees. Stakeholders, whether they're developers or not, are important people to serve on these committees. They have a stake in their particular property, and we should be open to hearing from those people and asking those people to serve also. So, you know, I think a broad background from people is really going to be the most helpful thing for the town. Thank you.
Okay, Jeff.
Yeah, I believe that the housing element committee should, you know, go forward. You know, find the applicants, and then we can, you know, Brian's free. We can put him on the housing element committee. He'll be here until 2022. So I think that's a great idea, but we can postpone the other committee form. You know, I think that's a good idea. And also on the flyer or the hard mail that goes out, can we like do something that people just don't automatically throw away? To like somehow, I don't know, I'm not in that business, advertising business, or what catches somebody's eye that they don't think it's a bill, or maybe free food or something.
Free food does
something to
work.
get people's attention though, like some other color than, you know, what's common. I don't know.
All right.
Something to think about so it doesn't get.
You want it hot pink, Jeff?
Yeah. So yeah. I know the importance of the housing element, and Brian and I have worked on that, the last one, and there's nothing like being under a time limit pressure of trying to finish up something, and I think it's a good idea to get moving on it. So.
Okay.
Okay. So I hear the consensus is going forward with the housing element, maybe smaller in the beginning, and then as things evolve, like you mentioned, let's keep it, you know, as things happen, then we'll be flexible enough to add if necessary. We are going to do a mailer, a special mailer, and we're going to do that immediately, and we are going to give 30 days from the date that we mail.
Okay.
And we are also going to do an email blast.
Correct.
And we're going to put an ad in the paper notifying our citizens that this is happening.
Good.
Okay?
Yep.
Does everybody concur? All right.
All right.
One question, is the 30 days including for housing element? Or are you looking for housing element sooner than 30 days?
No, the housing element is the one that we're talking about now. We're going to ask for all committees, but we'll extend that, much like Sean said, we won't need to have all the other committees done. I'm just talking about housing committee for 30 days.
Okay, that's clear.
That's clear.
Okay.
All right. Next presentation. We have titled this Collaboration. The first slide is our recommendation is the structure of your general plan, and this is based on a lot of experience I've had. Volume 1 would be the town's general plan policy. This is the document that would have your goals, objectives, policies, and implementation measures. And this is a document that you can only update 4 times a year. Volume 2 then would be the implementing standards, guidelines, and plans. One of the things that I find as a consultant coming into communities is not knowing where all the plans have been adopted and where are they. And in fact, in this community, that's already happened to me. And so this volume is a place to gather those. And it's just anything that you've adopted, it's gathered that. That's helpful for you as a town, but it's also helpful for the residents. It's also helpful for persons coming in and making application to know all the rules, guidelines, standards, plans that you have adopted that may not be directly related to the general plan. Volume 3 then would be the general plan and CEQA settings. One of my frustrations is we keep rewriting the settings for geology, hydrology, etc., over and over and over and over again when we write our environmental documents. So with Volume 3, we have one set of settings that will be used both for the general plan and the environmental document now and into the future. Future environmental documents then will supplement that information, enhancing it where it's appropriate. And so this way, hopefully, we don't have to write about geology, which hasn't changed in a million years. And I don't know, as consultants, I guess we like to write about it over and over and over again. But I'd prefer have one set, and if we have to amend it, we amend it. And that's done with a general plan update, or it's done with the CEQA documentation updates. And then finally, Volume 4 would be environmental documents. And this is a place for all those environmental documents that the town has certified are located. So again, you can find them in one location. So somebody coming into the community can take a look at all the documents that have previously been certified within the town. So the next page, just quickly, Volume 1 would include the goals, objectives, policy, and implementation programs. One of the callers mentioned that there was not going to be any changes to the general plan. There could be. It's appropriate for the town to consider changes. But the council's given us direction that you basically want this to be an update, not so much the changes. But if there's something comes in, you want to take a look at it, do. I think one of the big areas that we can have discussions about are implementation programs to meet your goals and objectives. I think there's a lot of things that can be done in the community to enhance those and actually allow the town to begin implementing its goals and policies faster than it has to date. Volume 2, the implementing standards, guidelines, and plans, we're recommending a Town of Loomis glossary. One of the issues that we find is if you have glossaries in your zoning code, your design manual, your street manual, and they don't line up, you have conflicts. And you do have some conflicts in your glossaries right now. So the recommendation is a single Town of Loomis glossary that then in the other documents would reference, but there's also a statement in any documents that has part of the glossary, which is, if you want to find out the real term, you have to go to Volume 2 of the general plan, the glossary, and that will be the official one place to look at a definition. And I think that will help clarify and clean up things in the future. Mary Beth has put together programs that will go into this Volume 2, which includes the Town of Loomis Capital Improvement Program, which is updated annually, the Town Center Master Plan, the Land Development Manual, the Construction Improvement Standards, the Drainage Master Plan, the West Placer Storm Water Quality Design Manual, and the Parks and Recreation Master Plan. And I will tell you, coming into this town, I didn't know some of those existed until they popped up. Thank you, Britt. And so by putting them into this volume, it's not that you're readopting them, it's just a holding zone for those. And there may be other documents that this town has adopted that would go onto the list, but that was a list that we put together that we're aware of today. Volume 3, the general plan and CEQA settings. We're going to have the cultural resources setting. It's done, and it will be posted tomorrow. And it is a fascinating document. Melinda has done a great job of updating and providing you information on your cultural background. And I think you're going to find it enjoyable to read. And within a day or two, the biological resources document will be posted. There's some great graphics in there. The one thing I was looking at, there's a graphic showing your various habitat types. And what was surprising is 40% of the town of Loomis is in oak woodland. A significant amount. So to me, that goes back to, if there's that much oak woodland, what implementation measures do we want in place to preserve and enhance that oak woodland? So that's not so much changing your goals or your policies, but what implementation programs are necessary or would be helpful in fact to preserve that. So I think as you read these setting sections, you're going to find good information. One of the reasons we want to post them is I have found over time the locals know a whole lot more about the setting than the consultants do. I recall in one community we had floodplain maps, and one of the residents came out and he says, I want you to take a look because the flood in such and such was here, not what your map showed. And we were able to go and adjust the floodplain maps to reflect what actually occurred in the town. So as these sections are reviewed by the community, by the agencies, the intent is to get that information and enhance it and strengthen the information that we have in your setting sections, because they become the basis, for your general plan goals, policies, implementation measures, and also for your environmental documentation. And then volume 4, at this time we're aware of the General Plan 2000 EIR that was certified, the Costco EIR that was certified, and the Villages EIR that were certified. Other documents we didn't find that were certified, so at this point in time those are the documents that would be contained in volume 4 of the General Plan. So, talking about the collaboration. The draft general plan documents posted on the town's website will be posted throughout the process. And we encourage agency and individual community input into those documents by sending either a snail mail or sending an email to gpupdate@loomis.ca.gov. Modifications will be tracked in legislative mode. New text will be underlined, new text and modifications, and deleted text will be deleted. The other thing, as we will have volume control or version tracking, so there will be a version number and a date when that version was updated. So the original document is version O. So under the volume 1 general plan at this point in time, your policy document will be version O and will be up on the website. The setting section for cultural setting section for resources will be version 1 and dated September, and they will be posted. So the original document is version O, and then as we update each version, we will change the version number. When we go in and go from version 1 to 2, all of the changes made in that first version will be accepted, cleaned up, and then any new changes from there will be in the legislative mode with the underlines, whatever. But we will be maintaining all versions. So if somebody wants to go back to the beginning and look at the evolution of the document and how it was changed, somebody will be able to do that. So we will preserve all of those versions for review. Let's see here. Then also there will be regular updates. General plan will update the documents in legislative mode on a regular basis. The general plan staff will incorporate the modification from staff and agencies and community. Notes will be included in the documents identifying questions, information required, or potential conflicts to be resolved in the process. Those will be taken first to the committees, then brought to the Planning Commission, then to the council for a determination of what is or is not included in the documents. If there's facts that are facts, obviously facts will include those. But when it comes to policy in those directions, council will have the final determination if they're incorporated into the document or not, so that you have that choice. So basically, you'll be looking at all those and getting to make those choices. That's where I think at times collaborative meetings between the committee, the council, and the Planning Commission could be really useful to kind of work through those things. So that is our recommendation for collaboration, allowing the community and agencies to be engaged in this process throughout, having a direct input. Doesn't mean your input will be taken, but it will be considered and it will be shared with the council and the committees for consideration. But that way we can assure that we're getting the best of information and the most robust amount of information into the general plan document before it's adopted. The one thing I've also found when we have done that is at the very end of the process, you're not going to have somebody coming up and standing, why didn't I get to be involved in this process? And you can basically show that you have been transparent throughout the process, and persons can see this document evolving over time.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions for Anders? I'm just going to add that the community-wide surveys are going to be a huge part of our general plan update, and want to make sure that that's also included in your collaboration efforts.
Yes.
And the fact is, we aren't going to be able to do this without community-wide surveys, and hopefully many of them. So I want to assure the public that that is going to happen, and that is the will of your council as well. So anyway, just wanted to make sure that that's...
Well, Michelle's going to be talking next, and the first flyers are going to be going out based on the Main Street program, probably within 1 or 2 days. Okay. So it's going to start here really soon.
Okay.
Yes, there will be surveys. Part of on the surveys, now that you've brought the team under contract, we need to get together and figure out, what surveys and what's going to be asked. Through this process, it's very possible the council will want specific question answered. It could be possible the committees have specific questions they want answered, and we'll be able to do the survey. And I know Mary Beth was just recently involved, I believe, in a SACOG program where there was an online
Zoom meeting that you could actually type your response to the question, and it would collate all of those, and like the words acknowledgement, or the ones that were people did over and over, the multiple choice answers appeared larger than the smaller ones, and it was real time, recordable, and it kept the meeting engaged and going forward with real time information. It was very cool.
Great.
So I think you're going to be experimenting as you go through this process. We all are on new ways of communicating. And actually, based on my experience with the Zoom webinar and breakouts, it really is a robust process, and I think it's going to be fun.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I did see that both AECom and PlaceWorks mentioned surveying and scheduling, and looking forward to getting all that synced up.
Yep.
So, all right, if there's no other questions, we'll open it up to public comment.
So if you'd like to make a public comment, please use the raise hand function through Zoom. And if you're calling on a phone, landline phone, you'll hit *9. No public comments.
Okay, hearing and seeing none. Thank you so much for.
Thank you.
Thank you. And so we'll move on, and now we're going to move up the Rural Maine.
Correct.
Street Technical Assistance Program.
Yeah, so we'll turn it over to Greg Chu, who's SACOG first, and then we'll bring in Michelle Reeves after.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it. So again, my name is Greg Chu. I'm with the Sacramento Area Council of Governments, or SACOG. So for the general public that may not be familiar with SACOG, we serve as the 6-county regional transportation planning agency. We work in the 6 counties and the 22 cities and towns that are in the SACOG region. So why I'm here tonight is SACOG received a grant from Caltrans, one of our funding partners, and it gave us funds to help the rural communities in our region with revitalizing their main streets. So we, with the grant, we said to Caltrans that we would provide services to local jurisdictions through the assistance of consultants with any sort of service that's related to planning that we could provide. So we have 3 consultants that we have on contract to provide services. We approached the town staff to see if Loomis would be interested in receiving any of these services. And after discussions with Mary Beth and Sean, came up with some things that are in sync with what's going on with what you just heard about the general plan. So our process at SACOG, the Rural Main Streets Technical Assistance Program, is independent but in collaboration in support of what's going on with the general plan. So specifically, our 3 consultants, we have the Local Government Commission, which is a national nonprofit that happens to be based in downtown Sacramento. They're really good at doing public workshops and things related to street design. We have Robert Liberty, consultant out of Portland, Oregon, who's talking about what's just going on with the housing market, where things are going, where communities are looking to, what opportunities there might be, what sort of options there may be. So he'll be also providing services here. And then our third person is Michelle Reeves with Civilis, also out of Portland, and she has worked here in the community before. And her specialty is in community revitalization and economic development. And she's probably our most popular consultant at SACOG by far. Works all over, but it's really good at getting the community to engage and talk about what they're really looking for. So with that, Michelle is on the line, and I'm going to turn it over to her to talk about, because she has the first items coming up in these services. The other 2 consultants will be later on this year. So with that, Michelle Reeves with Civilis.
Thank you for the intro, Greg. I'm excited to be joining you guys. I understand there's some audio-visual difficulties, so I'm just doing my podcast voice.
Michelle, if you can, the video is working for me on YouTube.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Is that coming through?
Yeah.
Okay. So, well, I wanted to just talk very briefly, because I know you guys have been in a long meeting, about the civic identity process that we're going to use to help inform your master plan update. And mostly what I just wanted to do is share with you how it came about a little bit, because it is unusual. And I think it will get at some of the comments and some of the things that have come up in your discussion that I've been listening to over the last hour. So my background is originally private sector, so development, adaptive reuse, new construction. And now I work at the intersection of sort of the private and the public sector. So when I began working at that intersection, I realized pretty early on that we needed some new tools for working at that intersection that did a better job of helping communities define who they wanted to be. And not just did a better job, but maybe were a little bit more fun as well. So I was really looking for an accessible and inclusive way to develop insights and results that were intuitive and everyone could kind of get their head around them. And I wanted them to be applicable to a wide cross-section of the development of policies or plans for cities. So that's kind of a heavy lift, I know. But what I ended up doing was collaborating with a leader, Stacey Halal, in both the performance improvisation community in the country and also in the process of applying brand and story together with multinational companies all over the world. And together we created this process that I call civic identity. So what we do is we take the same framework, the same 4 things that improvisation performers use to create compelling stories on the fly, and we teach that to communities. And then we have the communities, in their own words, populate the story framework of their community. And what comes out of that is actually, it's really magical. The observations that come out of it are deeply insightful, and they're quite varied, and they are applicable to a wide cross-section of things. So I have used this process to inform a new planning approach for the oldest district in Portland, Maine. I've used it in Iowa to teach downtowns how to approach tourism and place-based marketing and branding. I have used it in Ojai and Miners Oaks, California, to develop more resilient business plans for the commercial community in the face of natural disasters like forest fires. So the takeaways that we get from this process are some of the stuff you were talking about earlier. They're big picture, they're plain English, they help inform kind of the entire process. And they also have a lot of follow-on takeaways, because story-based branding is actually one of the fundamentals of any kind of commerce based branding that you want to do. So any business owner, anybody who has something in which marketing is a fundamental element of what they do, there's going to be follow-on takeaways for them. So this process is going to be reduced into a couple of key components. So first, we're going to have 2 focus workshops with smaller groups that I'm just going to moderate from the front, and I like those because I get to dive in really deeply with people. We're going to have 1 large public workshop. We're going to have a big, large, totally open to everyone survey. And I'm going to also be doing some interviews, and then I have my own time on the ground stuff that I have as well. So that's going to kind of be the process. And from that, I'm going to digest all of that data and just basically reflect it back to you, and then also talk about, just from my own expertise, what some of the outcomes might be from the observations that your community made about what it wants to be, what it is now, what it wants to be in the future, what it was in the past, all of those kinds of things. So that is roughly the process that we're going to be undertaking, starting in a couple weeks here in late September and then running into October, and I think might be a good lead-in, both for maybe identifying people who are really excited about that big picture approach and might want to serve on some of those committees in the longer term, and then give you guys a plain English way of talking about the values and what you guys want to do moving forward with the master plan update. So that is a quick overview of the civic identity process.
Thanks, Michelle. So I will, I guess we'll turn it over to council if you have questions.
Okay, yeah. Do you have some questions?
I just have a comment, Madam Mayor. This is actually a great opportunity for Loomis. Again, Michelle has been here in the past, and I remember a couple years ago we hosted her at the Blue Goose, and there was a really large audience that came and listened to her. She gave some great recommendations on how we could upgrade and improve our little downtown, and we did execute a few of those ideas, and so when she comes back, we'll have to point those out. And you know, I think the greatest challenge right now is COVID, and you know how we go about attracting new businesses to our downtown. This is obviously I don't have to tell anyone this, but I'll just say it's a game changer. And so Michelle, please come prepared with how you think that we might be able to get our downtown up and running again. You know, we had this grant program that we thought was very successful since you were here. And we've done some other things. So, you know, it's important to have this kind of support, and I'm thankful to SACOG for stepping up and affording another round of Michelle's services. So thank you. I actually do have one comment about the title of the Rural Main Street Technical Assistance Program. I would ask that we consider renaming it the Semi-Rural Main Street Technical Assistance Program, because Loomis is more semi-rural than it is rural, but those are semantics, Madam Mayor. Thank you. Look forward to seeing you, Michelle.
Well, thank you. That's exciting. I just wanted to weigh in. I think that any place that you're working that has a commercial district and we're going in and doing long-term visioning and planning, there's still this incredibly pressing questions about how do we survive COVID. I mean, that is just, kind of job number one. So we'll definitely be looking at some of that, where you guys are right now. Because as we look at the story framework, you're kind of looking at an arc, where you were, where you are, where you're going. And a big piece of where you are to where you're going is going to have to incorporate how COVID is a piece of that. And I really like to look at and think about ideas that not only help you during COVID, but also when we're past this are going to be additive to what you're doing downtown as well.
Michelle, we received a question about dates. Do you want to say anything about that?
I didn't know if Mary Beth wanted to weigh in on how. So we're going to be doing two small workshops, and then we have the big workshop. And I actually am so bad I don't have the dates right up in front of me. Let me bring those up. So the big public Loomis workshop was going to be, and correct me if I'm wrong, September 29th. And the two smaller curated by invite workshops are the 23rd and the 24th of September. And then the survey will go out after the workshop on the 29th, so that will happen the first couple weeks of October.
So Tuesday, September 29th, that'll be from 6 to 8 p.m. And staff will be able to provide a flyer, maybe post that on the
and to weigh in on what Jeff said, the flyer for the public workshop has a very bright yellow in it.
Where is that going to be located?
It's going to be virtual.
Yeah. Oh, virtual. Okay. Cool. Thank you.
Any questions? Okay. I want to open it up for public comment because I want to see if anybody has any questions out there. But I do want to. I think we have to have at the end of this, frame this up and reframe it, and with all the dates and all that. So.
Okay.
So members of the public wishing to comment will need to use that Zoom function, raise hand, and if you're on the phone, which I don't see anybody on the phone, but if you are on the phone, *9. And we have no public comments.
Okay, hearing and seeing no public comment. Just want to, Mary Beth, could you maybe give a brief synopsis, since we didn't really have the opportunity to see this. I wanted just to explain to the public how this came to be for us, for Loomis, that there's no cost, and that go over the dates and that kind of thing.
Certainly. So this comes to us from a SACOG grant that you guys approved last month at your meeting. So we're getting $20,000 from SACOG for Michelle's services, and then we also opted in for a couple of additional optional elements of that at $10,000 apiece. So it's kind of a matching grant. SACOG's putting in 20, the town's putting in 20, 10 for each optional element. Okay. With what Michelle was discussing, we're looking at doing 2-hour workshops. One would be on the morning of the 23rd, September 23rd, one in the afternoon on September 24th. And what we're trying to determine at this point in time are stakeholders, business owners, people downtown, people that are interested. Maybe they worked with Michelle's project before. Again, submitting that letter of interest and getting that rolling just based on their interest. We're not looking to have the council approve those members at this time because we're just gathering the information. And all of that will come together in the big workshop, the 2-hour workshop on September 29th.
Okay, and just to reiterate, this is not part of our general plan. This is something put on by SACOG that's going to help us form our rural Main Street.
Exactly. The information that Michelle gathers through this process in what she does will help us as we go forward with our general plan process. It's going to touch on housing, it's going to touch on economics, it's financial, all of those things. So we'll be able to take all those pieces that we're gathering at this time and move them forward as we update the general plan.
And they told us the dates. We didn't have any option on the dates.
We do have options on the date if you'd like to extend out the, identification period of people that want to be participating in that. We can do that. But, I've been working with Sean. From what I heard about Britt tonight, he's probably got a good hold on people involved in prior programs downtown that might be beneficial to that too. So yeah, we're kind of beginning, and it'll happen fast once it does, but if you'd like us to draw back on that a little, we're happy to do that too.
Council members, what do you think?
I did just want to weigh in really quickly that these grant funds have to be used this year. So I need enough time to get data, go through all of these different phases, and then I need my time to then parse all that data and put it into something useful and come back and do a presentation to you guys. So we're kind of at, I don't know that we could do this too much later and still meet all those timelines. So I just wanted everyone to kind of be aware of that there are back-end time constraints on the SACOG funds.
Do you think 2 weeks out would be too much of a push? Or what would be too much of a push? 1 week, 2 weeks?
Michelle, you're on mute.
Well, so I'd like to, that's something I don't know that I want to decide right here on Zoom TV, because I need to, I'm weaving this also within a bunch of other work that I have. So I need to kind of look at my larger calendar. I think it might be possible to shift a little bit. I just want people to recognize it's not work that I can be doing next year, and I have a kind of heavy load here in November, December. So we were kind of fitting this in, so it's possible we might be able to shift it back. But I want to be clear that this is not, there's going to be time between now and mid-October for people to be a part of this process in some way. Focus workshops, large workshops, surveys. And what you want to be doing is using this to build momentum for people to have interest in the master plan update process as you go through with it. So this is really the start of something. I don't need that, I don't think you have to worry about having the full market penetration of people serving on surveys that you were talking about before. So I'd have to, if you guys decide that you'd like to push it back a little bit, I'd have to go and kind of went through my calendar and see how that might fit. And we might be able to do that, but not by a lot.
Okay, yeah, with all due respect, Michelle, we did not know about the dates. So, anyway, Jeff?
I just want to be clear now that these virtual meetings, this is just for informational, educational. This is like going to class for people to participate in. We're not forming committees.
Right.
It's just for the public's information and knowledge.
That's
so.
Right.
I don't have a problem with the dates really, because people are going to be having access to their computers, the ones that don't. We are still going to have a workshop in the park that is not related to this, so that will be later in October. So I think this is a good opportunity to get people on board, involved, and I know there's a lot going on with COVID and of course right now the fires and everything, but I do believe that we do have access to internet, most people, and we can participate virtually. Myself, I don't have a problem with the dates.
Okay. Okay. Please.
Are these, maybe I missed it, are these going to be recorded and archived? So at a later date, if we have somebody that would like to go on and learn about what we did, they still have the opportunity and the access to that, correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. Let's move forward with the regular dates then.
I do want to, so the breakouts actually aren't recorded. So Zoom does not record the breakout groups. But the main bulk, like in the public presentation, that main presentation where I teach the workshop, and then the parts where we come back to the main group and we talk to people, that will be recorded.
Okay. So I think that there's plenty of time, because that's the bulk of the information right there.
Okay.
So thank you, Michelle.
Okay.
If I could just add, Madam Mayor, so I think it's important for people to know that Michelle was had more requests from SACOG, our counterpart cities and counties. There was more demand for her. So I feel very privileged again. I know I've said this before, but I feel very privileged that we were able to secure her here in Loomis. A lot of people want her expertise in the region, and there was only a few jurisdictions that were able to get her. So it's a great opportunity again for Loomis, and I encourage anybody who has any interest in seeing the success of downtown to participate. Bring great questions, and hopefully there'll be some good recommendations that come out of that. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay. Sounds like we are in agreement on the dates then. I just really want to make sure we get the word out so that everybody knows what's going on with this Rural Main Street Technical Assistant Program, and let's make sure we send out maybe an additional mailer and email blast and whatever we can do, put it in the paper, whatever we can do to get the word out in such a short period of time. All right. So there's no...
Thank you, Michelle.
No action here.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Michelle. Thank you for waiting. Sorry it took so long.
No. See you later.
All right, so we're going to go back. Was that the last one?
One more.
Voting delegates. All right.
So each year, the League of California Cities holds their annual convention. This year's convention is a little strange. It's going to be virtual. And as part of that, cities who are going to be sending somebody to the convention have the ability to designate a voting delegate for voting on specific resolutions that are presented to the General Assembly. So this time I'm attending virtually, and I think Mayor Clark Kretz and Vice Mayor Duncan. Is that so out of the three of us, it would be prudent for council to appoint one to be the voting delegate and a second to be the alternate voting delegate.
I'll move that Jan be the delegate, Jeff be the alternate, and you be the second alternate.
I'll second that.
Madam Mayor, who was it last year? Who was the primary delegate last year?
It was me,
It was you?
actually.
Okay. Well,
Awesome job.
I do think it's important to have some consistency because of the learning curve there. So, but that's also a personal decision by those of you who would be serving. So,
It would be an honor for me. I did it last year, so no, not a problem. Thank you. Thank you.
So we have a motion, a second, right?
Yeah, so we need a motion then to...
We're on to motion.
Okay, and a second?
Second.
Okay. Oh, right, sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you. Let's open it up for public comment.
So you'll need to hit that Zoom button if you have a public comment. And we have no public comments.
All right. Now, let's go back to having a motion. And we had a second. And, okay, and let's do a roll call.
Councilmember Morales?
Aye.
Councilmember Underko?
Aye.
Councilmember Duncan?
Aye.
Councilmember Baker?
Aye.
Mayor Clark Kretz?
Aye. Motion passes. Okay, we're going to move to committee reports. Council committees. Does anybody have anything to report? Oh, please. Okay. Anybody have a... Brian, do you have anything to report?
Probably the only thing that came up in PCTPA would be Sparta is reviewing the South Placer traffic model update fee program. And then also SACOG is doing a commercial corridor for Loomis and Colfax. So that was just something they brought up at our last meeting, whatever that is.
Okay.
I'll report on SACOG. So, as you know, we were aiming for like a ribbon cutting for all the work that has been done on Taylor, which, by the way, looks fantastic. Thank you, Brett, and Western Engineering and all the subcontractors. But I think it is appropriate that we, at some point, recognize the work that is done down there once it's complete, and they're pretty much there. They're almost there. There's a couple loose ends that are going to finish up, right, Brett? But it is a fantastic job and a really important thing that was done for downtown and Taylor Road. So keep an eye out for that, Madam Mayor. It is my understanding we're still going to try to get a ribbon cutting because SACOG was, and bring the SACOG folks up, because that was a result of some hard work that our predecessors on SACOG did. So again, very happy with the project. Really am. Appreciate it.
Yep. Thank you, Tim. All right, with that, we're going to go ahead and adjourn our meeting. It's 9/11, September 8th. What's that? Wait, it's...